Our mission, the three key words in our mission are rigor, nurture, and personalization. And I think those three words translated very well in terms, when the pandemic hit, in the sense that because we're small, we were able to really individualize, our response for every family. We were really committed as a team to making sure that kids didn't lose their educational momentum. We have an incredible faculty. I think in the end, that's what makes a school successful is the teachers. And we have some very technologically able members of our team, our teaching team, supported by a couple of our members of our leadership team. And for those people who struggled a little bit with the transition, there was a lot of support. It's funny, June 30th was our big date. It's the date where families can decide to drop out of school and decide not to stay for the following year. And we were afraid we would lose a lot of families because of the economic impact of COVID. Well, that date came and left. We lost, I think, maybe one family, and actually that family moved away. And then we had some families come to us in August interested in spots, but at that point we were full, so we just didn't have the ability to accommodate any more students. Our question was, will our culture hold together? And we have a brand new 9th grade class this year. They've never been part of the culture. So part of the challenge is, how do you acculturate 25% of our community in a situation where we can't have our 2.5 day overnight orientation. We're not having the back to school dance this weekend. The homecoming dance is not going to happen in the way that it did before. But I think, it's just, we've just taken that culture and adapted it to the situation that we're in terms of trying to create different. Online events are not the same, but trying to create that personalized connection between the family and the school. And what I have discovered, even in being here 2 weeks, is, like people who haven't had a glass of water in the desert for, days and days, students are just so glad to be on campus and so glad to be with each other. And our seniors have said to us, look, we'll do anything to stay on campus. And even in the first few days, you can see them adhering to the different procedures and protocols because they don't want to go back into distance learning. And neither, I think, to any of the adults, despite the fact that it's not a risk-free proposition. It's still a pandemic. People were thinking about either distance learning or opening. And so we've been going with a phased reopening. So we brought in 25% of our students, then 50. We're going to 75% next week. We expect to be able to have 100% back in a couple of weeks, or not, right? We might have to take one grade off for a week and bring in and just continue to do rotations. The research is very clear. COVID is deadly. It's a very deadly disease. But COVID is also deadly for students, right? It's deadly for their learning. Rates of anxiety and suicide and depression are all up. And so, it's not this either or proposition. We're trying to get kids back safely. And, one thing that we have a health advisory team that's got some wonderful people on it. And what they said to us is that, it's not any one thing that you do, right? It's this combination of things that you're doing. It's cohorting the kids, using masks, doing a deep cleaning in the middle of the week, keep maximizing 6 feet distance. When you add all these things together, you really begin to reduce the risk. It's funny, you feel as a head of school, you're just waiting for the shoe to drop. You just know that this is going to happen. And I think for us, it's just about sustaining that level of vigilance day in and day out. Every day I have a 6-foot stick that we've carved. We carved 20 of these and gave them to different teachers. And so we walk around like Gandalf with a 6-foot stick, and I'm constantly putting it out. And it's like, this is what we do. This is school in the era of COVID. But these have been difficult decisions because they're high stakes decisions. But I think kids are not built to be learning online, all the time. I had a friend who 10 years ago told me, in 10 years, all school will be virtual. And I remember saying, that's ridiculous. We are built to be in community with each other. There's some amazing tools that exist right now, instructional technology tools. And I think COVID has accelerated the implementation of those tools. And some of those tools work just as well when you're in school as when you're out of school. And so, or when you're online. And so I think that's a good thing. I think when I think about the fluency of our faculty in terms of being able to implement these tools, which help to support kids with different learning styles or help them to do different kinds of projects in creative ways. I think what you're going to see is there's going to be some remnants of this pandemic that are not going to go away. It's also possible for us that you're going to see, I mean, we're following the hot real estate market in this area, and it's possible we're just going to have more teleworking, or I think even maybe less than that, people who don't always have to go 5 days into Washington or Baltimore. They can live here, go in 2 days a week, and that might make them more likely to decide to leave those areas and then enroll at a school like Gunston. I think I can necessarily predict what life's going to look like in 5 or 10 years, but I think kids will need to learn how to think clearly, write clearly, understand science, really crucial. And I think those are fundamental to be an educated, thoughtful person. That's going to translate to whatever era that you're in. I do think we're entering an era where just like adaptability is going to be a key quality that people have to take on. Yeah, I think it's actually a bigger challenge for higher ed than it is for, say, the secondary schools, and even for lower schools. Like for instance, like I can teach my child 4th grade math. I cannot teach them AP chemistry, right? So Gunston has a little bit of an advantage there. Families need us in ways that they might not in lower grades. And for colleges, we've seen a bunch of our graduates last year who are taking gap years, who are going to take the year off. And I think we're looking at a number of our students this year, seniors, who are just asking the question, what do they want to do next year? And so I think it used to be, you finish high school, then you go to 4 years of college, and like that's just it. And if you don't go right to college, there's sort of something wrong with you. And I think those notions are getting blown up a little bit. That there's no need to be in such a rush necessarily after high school, even though I think students are going to continue to want and need the college experience. I mean, we've grown whatever it is, 75% in enrollment over the past 10 years, and we have just a wonderful program that I think kids have 4 great years here. The school's gone through a lot of transition in the 110 years here, as much in the last 10 as any other. And we're asking ourselves the question: how big should we be to be able to serve the region that we draw from? What are some of the sort of facilities and programming things that we want to think about over the next couple of years? I think the question we keep asking is, how do we sustain high quality program? And that's a lot of work in terms of helping to support teachers and helping to make sure that the student experience is kind of well calibrated, and that we're staying innovative at a time when there's just so much changing and so many new things happening in the field of education.